is Anya from Anya Teaches English, and today I am here with the lovely, beautiful and talented Miss Daisy.
Hello.
And we're going to be interviewing, well, I'm going to be interviewing her with some of the questions that you posted on my Facebook and my Instagram. Before we start though, I'm just going to pass you over to Daisy and she's going to introduce herself. So Daisy, can you tell us something about yourself, please?
Hello, so my name is Daisy and I am currently teaching English in beautiful Italy, in the north of Italy, in the mountains, as you can see behind us. I am also a musician. I usually sing to my children, but I like to kind of incorporate both because I think learning through music is probably the best thing, especially for little kids. And we've been here for 10 days now, teaching at a school, and it's been wonderful teaching with Anya.
Yeah, it has been really fun, hasn't it?
It has, crazy but fun.
Yes, exhausting but fun. Yeah,
Oui.
really fun. Okay, so let's start with some questions.
Okay.
So a couple of people wanted to know, how did you find this job that we're doing now? Just to remind you, so we're teaching at a kids summer camp in Italy, up in northern Italy in the mountains. So how did you find this job? How did you end up here?
Okay, so this is actually my third year at this summer camp. I found this job 3 years ago on a website called ESL Employment. I was currently teaching in Thailand and I was looking at coming back to Europe, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to teach at one school full-time for a year or maybe look at summer camps. So I just saw this come up and it just looked wonderful, really. It was just a 2-week summer camp in northern Italy, teaching children aged 4 to 12. That was all I knew. So it was I kind of came in the dark, but obviously I'm here 3 years later and it's my favourite place to be.
It is wonderful, and it's through you that you recommended it to me, and now I'm here as well, so I'm very grateful to Daisy for introducing me to this beautiful place. All right, let's move on to the next question. Okay, this is a question from Flavia. She posted on Facebook. What are the biggest challenges of working as an English teacher?
Challenges, I would say, for me, when I first started teaching English, that was in Thailand, in Bangkok, as a kindergarten teacher, and I was so excited, ready to go. And for me, it was more about teaching English than just travelling, because a lot of people decide to teach English as a foreign language to travel, which is the best way to travel, I'd say. But for me, I really cared about the teaching side, and when I found that when you work for big companies, flies and bumpies everywhere. Yeah. When you work for big companies, which are for teaching English, you can feel a bit disposable as a teacher, and I think that's something I really found as a challenge. I really cared about teaching the children, but I felt like I could just be replaced very quickly because there is such an influx of teachers moving in and out of Thailand and other countries in the world too, but particularly in Thailand. So I would say I found that a challenge, and that's one reason why I love doing things like this, like summer camps. I know that they want me back, not just any other teacher, because it's my third year. But yeah, I'd say that definitely if you're looking at being a TEFL or ESL teacher.
We're going to mix it up a bit now and ask not about English teaching or English learning, because Daisy is a very talented musician. She sings beautifully and she plays the guitar very well. I can see you're shy now that I've given you compliments, but she is great. And anyway, so somebody asks from Instagram, since when have you been singing?
I've always been singing. I've always loved singing. And from a young age, I was always really into musical theatre. I think when I was younger, I was more confident. I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah. I think I had all the confidence in the world when I was a kid as well.
Absolutely. But then I was about when I was about 8 years old, my father bought me a guitar. He was a musician as well, and I just started sort of picking away and writing my own songs as well. So I think it was around that time when I really started to get properly into singing, especially my own stuff as well. And I just continued all the way through high school. It was definitely my outlet, music. I think everyone has their thing, whether that be sport or an instrument. I've always been singing. and I continue to sing on a daily basis. I usually sing just general sentences around the house, like "Good morning."
Yes, she is very musical. Yeah, so I've been waking up to that for the last few. Good morning.
Sorry.
No, it's nice. It's a nice way to start the day. All right, let's move on to the next question. Senor or sr.yoel Armour from Instagram asks, when was the first time you taught an English class and how was it?
Okay, well, thank you. Mum swap. So my first English class I ever taught was actually in 2015, and it was in Bangkok in Thailand, and it was a kindergarten class, K1, so they're the youngest. They are
how old?
3.
3?
And it was a class,
so young.
Class of about 30 children, and I was actually told, because this was my first day, I was told I would be observing, so I went along ready to watch an older, more experienced teacher for the day, just to make sure I could know what I was doing. And lo and behold, they say to me, "No, Daisy, you are going to be teaching. This is your first day." And I was like, "Oh,
by yourself?"
Yes.
With 33-year-old kids?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But you know what? Throwing me in the deep end was probably the best thing I could do. It made me think on my feet, and it was a fantastic day. They cried at first, the children cried. They do when they're 3. Strange English person in the classroom singing Frozen songs to them. But no, it was great. So that day I had 5 classes, so about 150 different students, all sort of age 3 to 6. It was fantastic. It was great.
That is straight in at the deep end, isn't it? All right, so that was her first time teaching English. Let's now ask another question related to teaching. This is from Insanox, so from Instagram, and he asks, what age group or what levels are the easiest and the most difficult to teach, and why?
It really depends on which country you're in. I would definitely say that. I mean, for me, I've taught in, I've only really taught in Thailand, in Italy and in the UK. And for me, teaching young children, kindergarten in Thailand was the easiest. I found teaching anything older than 8 very daunting. Whereas here in Italy, my favourite age group is aged 8 to 10, because they're sweet and they like to draw and to talk princesses with me basically. But then I've also been tutoring one-on-one in England, and my favourite age to tutor one-on-one is teenagers. So I know that's not really answering your question, but I think it definitely depends on which country you're teaching in, for which age group. It's definitely a cultural thing. And I think you've said you found that as well, and a lot of teachers have said that to me as well. So I can't imagine teaching a class of 30 teenagers in the UK, but one-on-one, lovely. And yeah, kindergarten in Thailand for sure. They're just so cute.
And what about when it comes to adult students? Because you do teach.
I do.
Some adults as well,
I have
right?
some adults, and you know what? I was always quite daunted when it came to teaching adults because I'd always been with children. But I actually currently have one adult student from Poland. I'm teaching him English, and it's great. It's a very different dynamic because he just really wants to practice this conversation, and I bring sort of a few sort of like grammar activities each week, but generally I love teaching adults as well. It's a new challenge though.
On to the next question. Okay, this one's from Josuad. Sorry if I'm getting it wrong. That's what I think it says. Josuad from Instagram asks, is it important to teach pronunciation and intonation to students to help them achieve a better accent? Or do you think it's more important to be able to understand the content and focus on other things?
I would say personally, and perhaps you agree, is that unless you're looking at, taking an exam such as IELTS or TOEFL, looking, to get into a university program, if English is not one of your first languages, then I would say focus more on the content, on the vocabulary, on... Oh, sorry. I'd say focusing on the content and vocabulary and structure, so grammar is far more important than perfecting an English accent. A lot of people want to obviously get a better accent, but I'd say unless you have a really thick accent from your native tongue, and it's difficult perhaps for native English speakers to understand you, then focus more on learning new words, learning new phrases.
I think it should come last, maybe. If you're like a really high level, I would say, this is my opinion, if you're at a really high level and you've learned lots of stuff, you're good with your grammar's great, and you know a lot of vocabulary, then you can start maybe trying to perfect the accent. But I would leave that till last. I wouldn't worry about it too much, unless, like you said, they speak with such a thick accent that it's difficult for native speakers to understand.
Absolutely. One tip I always say is, try and have a word or a phrase a day. And I think when it comes to accents and intonations, that's something that will come when you start practicing. So say if you move to an English speaking country like America, Australia, England, that's when you can start working on your sound, because being around other English speakers is probably the best thing for that.
Okay, I agree. Okay, and all right, another question related to teaching now. Silvana Paz from Instagram wrote that she was teaching, but she quit 2 years ago and wants to know how to motivate herself to get back into it again. So what would you recommend?
Oh,
it's a hard one, isn't it?
It is a hard one. I think the best way to answer that is to really think about what motivates me. I've had moments over the past 3 years since I've been doing English, teaching English, where I've been like, I want to do this today, the kids, you do have moments like with any job, but for me, I just always sit back and I realise how rewarding it is teaching anything, especially teaching a language. It's so rewarding, and teaching English in particular, it enables you to travel, to see the world, because English, we're very lucky.
We're super lucky.
Very lucky to have it as our first language. English and other languages too, but English in particular is something that will always be in demand. So you can choose your own schedule, you can be your own boss, you can choose where you live, you can choose how much you work, you can really grow it in such a way. I mean, look at Anya, she's a living example of this.
Well, still a work in progress, but yeah.
Fantastic. But yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity to really see the world. And I mean, I just think here, this place is beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's insanely beautiful. And I just think, when would I have come to this village if I wasn't teaching English? Probably never. It's
a very remote village, yeah. You wouldn't, it's not touristy at all. So
nope.
Yeah, if we hadn't been teaching English here, we probably never would have ended up here, right?
Absolutely. So yes, that's what I would say. If you're wanting to experience new cultures, new countries, new people, new food, new everything, teaching English is your ticket for that. And it sounds a bit corny, but I'm so happy doing it, and I don't think I'd ever not do it.
I agree, I love it as well. All right, and we have one last question, going back to the music. F Vidal 13 from Instagram asks, what kind of music do you like?
I have a very eclectic music taste. I was brought up with rock music and rock and roll, and I love organic sounds. I love hearing guitars in whatever I listen to. One of my favourite musicians is Jose Gonzalez. I love him. But really, I love everything. I mean, some days I'm listening to Jose Gonzalez, other days Foo Fighters, another day Chopin, get some classical music in there. I love rock music, pop music, classical music, I love jazz. I think it's important to just listen to everything, and even if you don't like everything, it's important to try.
It's a good attitude for life, I think, anyway. Yeah,
you just got to try it, and sometimes you'll be surprised, and tastes change with age. I mean, gosh, stuff that I would never have listened to when I was a kid, I love now. So yes, I listen to everything. Probably bar screamo. I can't get on with
what for those who don't know, what is screamo? How would you describe that?
It's very loud,
very screamy.
Very screamy.
Lots of screaming. Yeah, as the name suggests, actually.
Like metally, rocky, angry music where the singer is just going wah, wah.
Yeah.
I can't. That doesn't quite resonate with me.
No.
But some people will love it, and each to their own. That's fine. But no, I'd say everything and anything really. So,
a favourite band?
Oh,
if you had to choose?
Oh, it's between two. I'd say it's between the Red Hot Chili Peppers
Mm-hmm.
and the Foo Fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Love them both.
Okay.
They make me cry sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love them. Yes, definitely those two.
Okay, brilliant. Nice. All right, and just to finish up our interview, do you have any final tips that you would like to give people, people watching right now, people who are learning English? Any tips to kind of motivate them? Your top tips as a teacher.
My top tips. I can say this one straight from the horse's mouth because when I was learning Spanish when I was younger, I would always watch my favourite TV show in Spanish. So I would say if you're wanting to learn English, choose something that like a film or a TV series that you love and you know inside out, so you know the storylines, and listen to it in English, because that way you can pick up conversational tips as well. You can not just only learn more vocabulary, but you'll know what's going on. So I always think that's a really good tip. And I would always say my word a day. I have a word wall in my bedroom.
A word wall?
A word wall.
What's a word wall?
Every time I come across a word I like or I don't understand, even in English, I will I'll write it on a post-it note and I will stick it on my word wall. So one of my favourite words is petrichor.
What does petrichor mean?
Oh, petrichor is an English literary term, and it is the smell of the rain in the summertime. So you know when it's just rained and you have that really beautiful warm smell, that's petrichor.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've learned something new today.
Yes. So word a day, and yeah, so anytime you see a word you like, just write it down. And if you don't know what it means, write it down and find out later. That's the best thing, I'd say.
Yeah, it's really useful to write things down, isn't it? I think it helps you remember things.
Absolutely.
All right, good. Well, that is the end of our interview. Thank you so much, Daisy.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure interviewing you. Your answers were great. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that. If you have any more questions for Daisy, let us know in the comments. We will read them and you will answer them, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'll be here.
She's going to answer any more questions you have in the comments below. Also, remember to give it a like and subscribe. And thanks, guys, for watching, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.
But it was when I was about
There's a spider. There's a spider. I don't know. It landed on me. It's okay. It's on the floor. This can be one of the outtakes somewhere. Could do blue for real. It's yeah. It just landed on me and fell on the floor. Daisy's scared of spiders.
Oh god. They're really big here. Really
Yeah, I know. It was like a daddy long-legged spider thing. Okay, it's fine. Let's relocate.